Good morning, United Kingdom. Drive time session with Lakhi Singh, the vacant property fixer. I think he's fallen under his chair somewhere. So we'll try and find out where he's in a bit and call him back. We have the famous Neuro Singh, and I think you were in London yesterday, or was it? Yes, and you were there to attend some famous. Is it a business award of some kind? I want to ask you to give us a bit more explanation about the business award and the problems you must have felt, because if you've lost half of the year, hardly easy to make a decision about giving someone a business award, unless obviously the criteria is somewhat broader than just the yearly account. So this week again, we were talking about buy-to-let, commercial lets, the commercial finance around buy-to-let, and obviously yesterday we were talking about the best deals, or the probably the most interesting deals of 2020. Not much around, unfortunately. A difficult year. Everyone agrees with that. And the saying for this weekend we've got is, if you find opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. That's quite deep. That's quite deep. So talking about positivity, about being and having the ability and having the sense of being determined not to accept that which does not come to you, but create the environment. It's a bit like, I think, was it Napoleon, was it? Or who was it who drew a line across his palm to confirm that he was going to be I think, successful in his war endeavors. I can't remember who it was, but somebody actually carved out a line across his palm to say, that is my future. And he actually denied what was told to him about his future. So it's called determination. So another man who's been determined in his life, Mr. Neuro Singh Johal, and we've given a summary before. Having worked through 3 recessions is a bit like created a metamorphosis of himself. He's like a butterfly who keeps reappearing in different colors. So first wave, or the first recession he was in, he was effectively a pioneer MC. That's what you want to call it. Second recession, he built up a events production company. Now, when we spoke to him last week, he's created an ecosystem that is feeding off the time after the virus. So he's saying when and if the events business comes back online, I'm going to be ready. But in absence, he has now shifted the business to a publishing house and a professional magazine. So first thing about the saying for the weekend: if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. It's very positive. It's very, can you and have you found in your career, Ninda, that you created chances where you found they weren't being positive about what you were saying, i.e. you were a pioneer, you talked about the Punjabi Bhangra vibe becoming, something that would be accepted by the mainstream, and now you have, a fusion between American rap and Punjabi music, etc. And I think you must have had a lot of people laugh at you because of that. A lot of traditional people who probably thought you were spoiling the essence of the culture behind Punjabi music. Give us your input. Tell us, did you have those situations? Did you have to create a door because people were laughing or sniggering at you or undermining your attempt?
I think anybody who runs a business or something a bit different, it's impossible to get everybody to share your vision. That's just impossible. So obviously in the early days, we were producing Bhangra music for the Asian population, which was fine. I think it was the thought that I could scale it into mainstream. I think that was the difficult bit for people to understand, because they couldn't work out why somebody who was non-Asian would want to buy or consume an Asian musical product. I think that was the challenge. And equally, that challenge was shared by the non-Asian market, because they also said, why would we buy this product off you? Because our customers won't buy it off us. So the indigenous population, in other words, the people we were already selling to, saw the role, but only saw it within the Asian market. Everybody outside the Asian market shared the same view, but didn't think. So I'll give you an example. I was saying to Lakhi yesterday, when I was going to people like Virgin, remember Virgin Megastores? When I took the product to them, they said, oh, this sounds like world music to us. It's not quite world music.
Sounds like what?
World music, you know, where Spanish.
World music. That's a funny term. What do you mean, like Live Aid? What's his name? From the what was it now? What was the name of that gentleman who started off? What was the gentleman? The Irish guy started off Live Aid or whatever it was.
Yeah, Boomtown Rats guy from
Boomtown Rats guy. That's right. I mean, a bit like that. Is that what they were classifying at and saying?
No, I think they thought world music, like African music, Japanese music. But then when you took it to the world music people, they would say this is too this is too dancey. This has got too much of a dance floor. This should be in dance music. So basically, we couldn't get it categorized by anybody because nobody had come across Bhangra music. So in effect, what I was doing was creating a new market and taking a product into a totally new marketplace and trying to persuade them to buy it, and that was tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anybody who's in a recession.
So this is okay. So this goes. So this is the point I'm making, that where opportunity doesn't not create a door. I mean, the point is that what could you describe that as an essence of this saying of the week, that you basically found everybody sort of turning you down or unable to recognize what you were talking about? Is that right?
Absolutely. So there's always two ways of addressing a business. Either you go into a well-established marketplace and then you're competing with established players, or you try and find a place in the market
that's right,
that isn't being served somewhere that's you think there's an opportunity to exploit. And I try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do that with each of my models. So if I take the event side, when I went to an event, either I saw an event that was very educational and had no entertainment, or I went to an event that was all entertainment and no educational, if that makes sense. So that was a place I located and understood.
But probably isn't there inherent problem in that, Ninder, that it's a bit like oil and water. Somebody's coming there to just let their hair down and take out their stresses, and they want to do a bit of Bhangra or whatever. They're not going to want to know how to set up business or the key tips to success. They just want to let their hair down. And in the like fashion, people who are coming there for knowledge, they don't want to be blasted by woofers and speakers, do they?
Well, that's because you've assumed the entertainment was going to be Bhangra. It doesn't have to be Bhangra. It could be entertainment in another way.
Okay.
So I think it's finding out if there is a market for what you've got, and it could be that the market is telling you we need this, or you do what Steve Jobs did with Apple. He identified a market where he knew people didn't know they needed it, but he thought there was a market there. So there's ways approaching a market, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes the market isn't right. It's about timing, and I'm back to your door analogy, and it's about timing. And if the timing is not right, you start to prepare for that time when it is ready. So you start to prepare for it and get your get your sort of strategy right for that. So it really is sometimes crucially about timing going into a market.
Okay. Now I'm going to hold you to that thought. Got a good morning shout out from our favorite Sonia and from Sajal. Good morning to both of you, the property fixer sign. Question is, isn't it a bit of an irony then? You've got the music and entertainment, let's call it the entertainment industry. So it includes everything, dance, music, everything to do with entertainment. Yes?
Yeah.
You expect there to be a level of creativity there, but yet what you're saying is it seems like they are so boxed in their profiling of certain music that they don't know how to think outside of that box and look at these innovative ideas. Or has that now changed with the likes of things like X Factor or American Idol? Have they now opened that door up to accepting creativity even in the entertainment industry, where somebody comes in with something which is unique and different outside of the model that they would assume to be fitting a profile, that they will now look at these anomalies? Or is it still the same, even though you've entered you've become a pioneer in a certain industry? Is it still the same though?
I think what's always been in business, generally in business, is if you have something that is unique, then you have half a chance. If you go into a marketplace and your product is exactly the same as someone else, then you do experience a lot more difficulty in persuading people to buy what you've got, because there are available substitutes. So always, when you go into business, what is it about your product that makes it easy for people to make a decision to buy from you rather than from somebody else? And that, I think, has always been the case, but probably even more now, because people compare very quickly through social media. They can compare products and they can take advice from other people. But always with anything, when you do something, so I had the same question I had to ask myself: why am I launching a magazine? Why would anybody want to buy my magazine versus the others? When I launched my series of events, why would anybody want to come to my event when there are lots of other events to go to? You do have to create a proposition, something about whatever you're doing, whatever event or service it is, that people will seek you out. And if you can, so it's three letters really. It's why. Why would anybody?
Okay, why? So why would they product? Okay, right. So the why. So I think probably the ideal time to bring in a why. Why Lakhi Singh, the property fixer? Have we got Lakhi Singh online now? I think Lakhi Singh, did you manage to find your way out of, was it
I've been waiting backstage for 25 minutes, so
yeah,
you know what's gone wrong there.
That's the nuances of being famous, Mr. Singh. Security, there was probably security scare on the front end, and people didn't want you to be sniped or something. But now you're there. I hope security is now on its guard, that you're back with us. So, Lakhi Singh, today a topic came up based upon the weekend saying, if opportunity does not knock, build a door. Right, so it's talking about positivity, and we're talking about Ninder and his endeavors and how he tried to sort of like package something that wasn't known in the mainstream. So people they're just not recognizing it. And I think in the entertainment industry, Ninder, it's probably really, really frustrating, because you have a host of people vying for somebody to hear their music. Isn't it even more demoralizing, knowing that every door you knock or every door you create trying to knock is getting closed down? How many years did it take you for them to recognize the MC Punjabi mix scene?
Well, in total, the journey was 12 years, but trying to persuade that track was 5 years. So in other words, I'd already released it, and persuading people to buy took another 5 years before I managed to get the mainstream to accept a Bhangra track. Remember, sung in Punjabi.
How many years?
In total, to get people to accept Bhangra music was 12 years. To get them to accept Punjabi MC track was another 5 years. So it was 12 years long journey. And then, of course, you know, we were on.
And in between, what were you doing then? What were you making moves in between? Were you tap dancing? What were you doing in between?
No, just persisting. Every year I'd go abroad, go to all the trade fairs with my catalogue, and say, look, I really think your customer base will want to listen to some of these tracks. And every year they'd send me back.
So, I mean, very difficult. But how were you making ends meet? I mean, you must have spent time in studios. Did you make any professional videos, like with people who are sort of like, making the complete set as well with the music? Was that happening, or was it just the music?
Well, at that time, we're going back predate social media.
Before television was around, basically.
And yeah, so we were doing sort of videos, but that wasn't the clincher, because at that time the clincher was, can you get your music on radio? Because people start to listen to radio.
So the hook was, will radio play your music? And that was probably a double whammy, trying to convince the mainstream radio to put on your music. Apart from Asian radio, obviously there were Asian radio channels like what's it called now? Have the Sunrise in London, but I think in the Midlands, was it what's it called?
BBC Asian.
Asian Net, that's right, Asian Net, and there's another one there as well. I think there's another Asian.
There's lots
of them. But at that time, how many Asian? So were you trying to enter into the Asian radio stations, or was it you trying to get into the mainstream radio, like BBC One, Radio One, etc.?
It was the mainstream radio, because the Asian radio stations were fine. We were already regularly selling Bhangra through the Asian radio station. It was getting the mainstream. Really, we were looking to scale, and could we scale globally? And that was the challenge. But that was the dream I had when I set the label up, that one day Bhangra music would be in the charts.
Excellent.
And of course, nobody believed me.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's one of the commonalities between yourself and Mr. Lakhi Singh, the property fixer. Nobody believed him. Lakhi Singh, does that not ring a bell of things in your past and your journey in the last 16 years, I think now? Is it 16 started?
Depends where you're starting from. It seems like 100 years.
100 years, right. So obviously, looking at your age, probably yes. But what I'm trying to say is, have you had to create doors to knock on, or have you always known when to make the right moves?
Well, luckily, I've been working with a management team, and a bit like Ninda, when things have changed, or there's something that's like, for example, COVID-19 now, they've looked at, this is a discussion that we had yesterday, is that they've looked at all the ideas that had come up in the last 5 or 10 years and thought, okay, well, what is it that we're going to do in this market that's going to add value and still, still be consistent with our brand, but to take us to market and be part of the ecosystem. So in the same way, with what I've been doing when property market for me crashed, and also I got burnt, but from my situation at that time, yeah.
So you crashed and burnt?
Yeah, crashed and burnt in 14, 15 years ago. So since then, what I've done is been a bit more let's just say, definitive in the plan, and working not just on one aspect of a business, but been looking at lots of creative ways of creating an ecosystem in the property. So there isn't really any problem that we haven't really looked at over the last 15 years as a consultancy, helping all manner of clients from bottom, mid, top tier, ultra high net, in terms of finding solutions. So the predominant thing, I think, the similarity, I suppose, with Ninder Singh and myself. Morning, by the way, Ninder Singh, didn't get a chance to say hello.
Really good to see you yesterday.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the Bhangra moves.
Oh yes,
so,
there was an interview yesterday. Obviously, we're going to be looking forward to seeing that between yourself and Ninder yesterday. But so you actually did some Bhangra yesterday, did you, Lakhi Singh?
Yeah, we did it as a after event for we went live, just to sort of show what the backstage looks like, just for a bit of fun. People are always curious to know really what's being done, but what to the end product looks like and what happens in the background, they look completely different. So that was quite fun. But going back, I think the ecosystem that we created, somewhat like Ninder Singh, is I was involved in property, so everything I'm doing now is in property, but it's extending my knowledge in property on a more deeper vertical basis, in terms of having more expertise in 3-4 areas of property business, which is finance, stock repossession, negative equity negotiations, and property sales and acquisitions. And then the vertical is that there's 30-40 different areas. So horizontally, we offer a lot more services to provide solutions with. So it could be taxation, it could be looking at pension structures, it could be raising equity finance, joint venture funding, 100% funding. So I've learned quite a lot from the mistakes I've made, but I've kept in the same industry. So for Ninder, it was events and music, and the extension for music and events was to go into business events. So our extension, in terms of what I'm doing now, is primarily property-based problem solving. So that is actually very exciting, and it's never a dull moment, as you may know.
Okay, well, Sajul says you got to believe in yourself. I think it reinforces, both of you gentlemen, that belief in yourself, determination, always wins. We've got a shout out from Zishan as well, and from Mr. Noor, making moves as usual, from the commercial department at MC4U. Right. Trying to knock on doors that you're creating yourself. We understand determination, getting over the line. So can you tell me, Ninder, or can you tell me what that break point was? Where was it? What happened? Because I haven't still understood how that took. What happened? What was did you get a live appearance on Radio 1? Were you on the Chris Tarrant show? Was it someone else who just liked the music as they played a tape that you gave them and they said, look, this is excellent, I want you on? How did it happen?
I think there's a couple of things, and this is, Lucky and I spoke about this yesterday, and this is, I think, pretty well across all business sectors. I think people need to know who you are, and I think you need to, even in these difficult times, you need to continue to network with people. So I think the first thing is visibility. In other words, are you visible in front of your potential market? Secondly, once you've got visibility, because you can be everywhere, but does anybody trust you? In other words, do you have credibility? Then once you have visibility and credibility, your chances of then becoming profitable is then a natural consequence. People will then buy you. So I think, ask yourself, how well are you known? How well do you know people in your sector? If they know you and you know them, how credible are you to them? In other words, do you have an understanding of the marketplace better than them? because that way you're a bit of an influencer, you're a business influencer. Then it's a
Yeah.
natural consequence that will people buy from you. So you asked me the question, what was the bit that turned it over? Well,
What happened? What was that?
Yeah.
You know, did you bump into Chris Tarrant in the Midlands, or was it, what happened?
I was going abroad every year trying to sell this music. So I started to get to know people. People started to get to know me. I became, after a few years, they called me the Bhangra man, because I was the only one in the room with Bhangra music. So I had a niche product, but everybody knew who I was because I was going every year without fail, spending £4,000 or £5,000, which I didn't have, to go into abroad to attend all these trade fairs to try and sell the music. So that's the first bit. Does anybody know
where was this trade fair at? Because I'm sure there's lots of people out there. We did get a couple of questions of people asking how they could break into the music industry. So maybe interesting. They may need to do a lot of walking and a lot of dancing and
I think with any market, it's hard work. You have to put the hours in, and so that's the other thing. Persistence is one thing.
So the music industry had its trade fair as well, does it?
Yeah.
Quite new.
Where all the big record labels come together and they buy and sell product. So I think one of the other things is, so it's not only just resilience and faith in yourself. You need to work hard. Don't think this is just going to come into your lap. You have to go and work hard. So because I was going every year, people did start to recognize me. So whilst I wasn't able to do the deals, I was getting closer because people started to build a relationship with me.
It's right to remember. Oh, you're all right, Linda. You came last year. How are you doing? How's the? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
and
good.
the year before, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before. So eventually, I managed to persuade this little company in Italy. There's only about 3 of them in the company. I said, look, what do you think of this music? I think it's brilliant. They said, yeah, we heard it last year, but okay. They said, we'll try it. We won't give you any money, but we'll give you royalties if it works. So
excellent.
They said eventually they'll take it. Then I went 4 months later to another trade fair in Germany, and I met a Turkish label who I'd been bumping into. And he said, I hear you did a deal with a little company in Italy. I said, that's right. They said, well, we don't mind doing the deal as well, but we won't give you money up front. We'll give you royalties. I said, absolutely fine. Now, this is where I was sort of fortunate.
And this all happened in the same year, did it, Linda?
Same year, which is the
excellent
10th year. Which was the 10th year. Because remember, I've been going 9 years, so it didn't happen automatically. They'd got to know me. So in the 10th year, now, where I was lucky was the track started to cause a lot of chaos in the Istanbul nightclubs. So it was really...
Okay, right. Okay.
It was beginning to do some damage. And the DJs from Istanbul regularly DJ'd in Germany. So they took the music to Germany.
Excellent.
Suddenly it started...
I mean, okay, just 1 minute, Linda, because this is really quite fascinating. It shows you how even music is, and the labels and the people who promote music are very incestuous, and how just a small label in Italy passes the word around. Germany finds out. Germany takes it off you, but it's Turkish DJs who come to Germany who take the music across to the discos in Istanbul, and then it starts creating an impact. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Then what happened was there was some pirate DJs in America who'd heard it, and they started pirating it. So they started to do some damage in America. So that started to happen. Then it was, I can't remember when it was. I just remember it was nice and sunny. I was walking on the street and my phone rang. Somebody from Germany, Universal Music, said, we don't understand the music. We don't know what to sing. We don't understand the melody, but everybody loves it. We want to sign the track. That's when I knew, finally, crossing into the mainstream was now a distinct possibility, a very distinct possibility. Then a couple of months later, Sony from the UK, they rang up and said, we'd like to take the track. Radio 1 started to play it. And then the club started to play it. And when I went for the 11th time, back abroad to the trade fair. We left this country, and I was told we were going to go top 10. And then on Sunday, they read out the tracks, you know, on BBC Radio 1, and here's the top 10.
Yeah.
So they went 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and we went in straight into the national charts on BBC Radio 1 at number 5.
Excellent. Right. So that was a turning point. That's quite like a very interesting, inspiring story. And again, it shows you how overnight success, if you are determined and you believe, like Sonia also says, determination, belief in yourself, all these things are the ones that ultimately get you to some destination. Lakhi Singh, hearing that story, does it leave you with a warm feeling that somehow, somewhere, things do turn out right if your intentions are good?
Well, I think this is what we discussed yesterday, is that resilience is critical to your success. And if anything, from the whole interview, what came out yesterday was that for someone literally to be going against all odds, not even having the music recognized in the industry at all, and doing that consistently for 10 plus years until it really made an impact somehow. I mean, let's just say all hats off, really, or all turbans off in this case, to say, that's great.
Okay, you've got the same, I think, issue. Again, another commonality coming across. You mentioned somewhere in one of your diaries or notes or speeches that, at the beginning of the first recession, you were treated a bit like the plague. Not to say that you're not like the plague, but a bit like the plague in terms of people wouldn't really want to talk to you so openly and freely, because they seem to feel that you were the angel of bad news. Is that correct?
So you pose the question to me, yeah?
Yep, I'm posing it to you, Lakhi Singh, the virus, that they treated you a bit like a virus, like something that like the plague, and that you were, somewhat seen as being the agent of bad news.
I think it's like anything. I think with Inder, he was ahead of his time. And even in the property industry, I think I may have been about 13, 14 years ahead of my time. And at that time, there's a lot of over-optimism in aspiration in the property industry. And there are a lot of people getting involved, but not really putting, I think we've put the word stress in. Stress test now has become a normal term in all our daily drive time interviews. And because a lot of that stress test wasn't being put in, and I was saying the opposite, that you need, if a recession comes or something does go wrong in the future, property market dries up, interest rates go up, how are you going to manage it? And nobody really wanted to hear that. So I think going to networking events in the property industry, it wasn't so encouraging, because a lot of people in that industry are trying to plug property to sort of say, showing pie charts, showing capital going up, your capital growth happening year on year, but not necessarily showing the downside as much. So I think being real is not always in your advantage if you want to get out there. So I think I've sort of stuck to my guns, really. So, but I decided I don't really go much to networking events, but I've decided to actually create my own following and my own influence. So it's a slightly more radical way of actually making moves or tap dancing, as you put it, VJ Sal. But I think to give a clearer message, you have to have something to offer that's different. So in order to counter the lack of interest in people wanting to do things in a more business-like way, I've actually created the solutions or the technical products now that could counter people that have done that. So a lot of people that didn't quite listen are now coming back to me saying, Lucky, by the way, you said that 10 years ago. I actually have that problem now. I may not have listened then, but you're right. I need to need to fix this. So it's sort of come around in some ways. There's a different sort of psychology, obviously, in the music industry when you're trying to break into a market. That same principle, we've broken into a market which we knew that's going to have some fundamental problems and fundamental shifts. So I think that's spot on.
Yeah. Okay. So we've covered the topic of creating the doors and being determined, and I think a lot of the listeners also can identify with people who have been determined, who've had belief in themselves. With the general market and the general structure as it is, we've discussed lots of different things that are happening in terms of the high street changing, in terms of the way currency is going to flow, in the way that business itself is going to start functioning. What is your take on the next 3 to 6 months, Ninda? You're saying there's uncertainty. That's okay. We all agree there is. They're saying virus now is popping up again in different places. They're being slightly more stricter about enforcing the rules, which I think is probably the right way of doing it, because people generally are dismissive of things that force them to do new things. And I think sometimes you need policy and rules to enforce it, even though it's for the betterment and the sake of the public. But you've created an ecosystem, agreed. What's your forecast on when the events will come online again? And people will be able to mix and meet up and talk and sit with each other. When do you think that's going to happen?
Okay, so a couple of things. I think the big panacea is the vaccine. I think we have to wait for the vaccine. I think there'll be a number of stages. Firstly, when the vaccine is actually approved, one. Secondly, the time it takes to make sure that everybody's vaccinated, that will take quite a while. Number two. Number three then is creating the confidence in the consumer and the corporate to feel that they can go into an environment where they're not going to get ill. So that's number three. Now, according to the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, they think, this is the government thinks we will be back up and running 2023 in terms of fully.
2023, that's a long way off. Yeah. That's like if it's 20 this year, next year is 21, the following year will be 22, and then the following year after that will be 23, which is about
so
2 years away.
Yeah, so that's when you're back to pre-COVID days. So that's their understanding of it. I think 20 is wiped out. 21 next summer, no idea where we are. I've just cancelled. Last week we would have been at Park Lane Hilton with our London event, which we cancelled. We're just about to cancel the Birmingham one in February because we think that's tight. That takes me to the Leicester, and Leicester we cancelled this year as well. Listen, this is a fast-moving. I've just caught some news. Trump has got coronavirus. I've just heard Trump and his wife, I think, have just
confirmed yesterday that he and his wife, is it Melania? Yeah. They both have the virus. That's obvious.
Right. Yeah. Yes. So obviously there's going to be pandemonium there because they've got the elections coming. So I think, look, globally speaking, we have still an issue. I think for people in business, they've got to assume that uncertainty is the norm. That's what it will be like for the next 6 to 9 months, that we will remain in a flux where the economy is going to keep moving and changing. So I think the only certainty is uncertainty. And I think we spoke about, Lakhi Singh and I, we spoke about, look at your client base. What is it you were offering them before or are still offering them? And can you offer them something else in addition that helps them? So I think the next 3 to 6 to 9 months are going to be unpredictable. But the biggest thing that's it's going to bring some kind of certainty is going to be the vaccine. And until that point, I think businesses need to understand how to live today in the short term, because the future, whilst they have a vision and a strategy, the route there is going to be turbulent.
You're okay. You're lucky in terms of you're not lucky because lucky is Lakhi Singh, but I'm saying you're lucky in terms of your in property investments. You say were commercials, warehouses, I think maybe, and your tenants are more on the manufacturing side.
That's right. That's right. So
you haven't been impacted that way. So
I know.
But surely are not the manufacturers being impacted if there's no retail or there's no real commerce going on?
Yeah, I think in a recession or where the economy is going south, normally we call it a circular economy, and everybody, what we mean by that is everybody affected. Certain sectors get affected more than others, but everybody gets affected. Consumer confidence goes down.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, business investment goes down, and eventually it catches people. And that's why when people say to me, well, why do I care what's happening in China or India or America? Well, they fail to understand the global interconnectedness, and that eventually, whatever happens, it comes down to hit you.
Yeah, so I mean, the point is, it is a circular, it's not just in a circular economy, it's a circular global economy now with all of the, I mean, the last 20 years, there's been a focus on WTO and then trade agreements, and then the rise of the EU, and then now the exit from the EU. Lakhi Singh, what's your take on it? Where do you think, if you've got offerings, what is it that you're doing that is an additional offering or enhanced offering that Ninda suggests? Are you doing that already? Is there something you're offering? Like, are you able to provide something different that the other businesses can't provide? What is it you're offering that's a USP, an add-on?
Well, what we've done is we've basically every part of the company, the 5 verticals we've already decided, I think, literally within a week of COVID happening, because we were already anticipating some sort of major global meltdown anyway around March time this year. But, we were the sort of doomsayers, but we didn't obviously anticipate that it's going to be a global pandemic that could be killing millions. So 5 key things we've done. Number one is we've got 4 product sets and we need to take them to market. So we were already doing a license model where people would be able to become associates and offer our services out to people that might need property help. So what we've done for them is we reduced our basic membership from £2,000 to 0. So that means that they can introduce business and create a revenue income for themselves. In the time of COVID-19, so as the economy is worsening, they can offer solutions and still make money by offering solutions to people. So helping the potential people that may be in line for homelessness, possibly. So that's one critical thing we've done. The second thing we've done is, again, we normally charge 1% or 2% for selling a property. We reduced our figures down to 0. So we're selling property now again for 0%.
How do you do that? Is it possible you're operating at 0%? What about all the cost and the admin behind the sale? How are you managing that?
So what happens is that somebody wants a very quick sale, then they can access our database. They pay us 1%, but the 1%ers that we get are enough to cover all the 0% cost coverage. In addition, in certain deals, we also would charge a buyer a fee as well because they feel they may be getting a better deal. So it's all swings and roundabouts, but the numbers work because we've done all the stress testing on that. And we've got the infrastructure to be able to do it in a way. So we're doing it through social media, through Facebook. And in fact, this account itself is going to be a catalyst towards that. So Facebook and social media are a somewhat almost like a free resource to be able to get out the message about what we're doing. So
and I think you've got a bit of a specialism, haven't you, in social media marketing and the use of it. So excellent that you're using that. So anything else? What else are you doing?
So the other thing is that we were doing negative equity negotiations before, but we've structured a product now where we can literally write off the negative equity altogether and give people a deed of settlement. So that in itself can be done at a very low cost and gets people out of a pickle. So all three products actually are suited to a problematic market. So the worse things they're getting, the more we're able to help people to get out of their problems. And then we've also got a product which is to stop repossession in 24 hours anywhere in the country with a company called Immediate Bank Claims, which is also internal to us. So we could literally turn up at court within 24 hours, providing we get all the information today, and attend court for you to stop your repossession, whether you're a householder or otherwise. And the last thing is, the extension is that the bridging companies almost gone to 50% of the people that were lending before aren't lending anymore. So we've now deployed over about 20 private lenders who would lend not on lots of detailed criteria, they just lend on the project. So I'm taking on about 1 or 2 new private lenders to come on our bridging books every day. So I think we're really busy in terms of structuring and actually creating the solutions within the current problematic market.
Okay. There's a whole host of things there. It's not just one. And I think there may be, I mean, I'm just guessing, you originally were to run an event or like a annual event or a get together for a lot of the associate members you were doing for this free online networking and associate model. How has that been now put on ice? Is it a bit like Ninda realizing that events aren't going to happen? And Ninda, have you at least considered the option of turning the events around and making them more web-based or webinar-based? Can that work in the model that you had? And how would you have implemented it?
So what we did was we asked people why they come to our event. So we tracked about 600 people, 500 to 600 people, and they gen across the sort of sectors. And we asked people, well, why do you come? Why do you sort of pay top dollar? And what they said was, it's the people that are in the room. So we tend to attract some of the movers and shakers, and people who are influential in their sector across business. Those kind of people are very difficult to get to in normal circumstances.
Yeah.
No, if they come to my event, there's a high probability they'll be in the room. And as you know, people like to be associated with successful people. They like to be around successful people. So that bit of our offering, that crucial USP, you can't offer that on web because these people.
So there's a widget there, or there is a weakness or a crack in the events that you do that require the actual live interaction. So it's what about the product side of what you were doing events? Because I assume from what I've gathered of what you've said, there is a mix of business services with some entertainment. So which bit of that would be stripped away? Would you have stripped away and put onto the web if you could and generate interest that way?
There's two ways to look at this, and I spoke to Lakhi about this. It's the nature of your product. So if your product is what I call experiential, in other words, it's experience-based. So, I mean, one of the things people thought were when Sky TV threw all this money at football, that nobody would go to watch a game because they'd all watch it on TV. Well, Premiership games have always been packed out. So people go for the experience, and you can't buy the experience. And generally, now here's the interesting sort of paradox is if your product is people-based, you are unlikely in the long term to be replaced by a robot or an algorithm.
Okay.
Remember my music I was selling CDs and vinyls, but that got replaced by the mobile phone because you could download. So a lot of businesses out there could be replaced by an algorithm or by digital. Just think of
okay. What you're saying is inherently there is still the requirement for human interaction, and human fragilities cannot be replaced by models or kits. So that possibly blows out the water, Lakhi Singh, your idea of having miniature Lakhi Singhs as fixers. That's probably not going to work. So does that replace you? Can you have live models of yourself, and will that give comfort to people looking for your solutions?
I think it could actually. I think it could work. That's a very good idea, actually. It's an innovation. You could have, just like you've got
little models with
you could have, like you've got Bob the Builder. You could have probably Lakhi the Property Fixer. For adults they could probably hug my doll at night or something, just to make them feel better when they're having to deal with issues.
Probably going to areas a bit weird. Yes, hugging you every night.
I think you started it, so I think it's better you finish it now.
Have a digital message telling them everything will be all right in the morning or something. Okay,
everything will be all right. Yes,
in the morning.
It could be like that. It could be.
Well,
I could do like it could be like a Bangla doll to sort of cheer them up in the morning.
Yeah,
and then you could put the Punjabi MC track on and say ding 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 ding. Yeah.
Well, there you are, the creative
that could
side.
Actually work.
Do you think he's got a future
in set up this new enterprise?
Music? Do you think he's got a future in music with that repetitive? Well, it sounded like a broken guitar, but I'm not sure. Was it a broken guitar that is it? Okay, what's the name of that instrument? It's a very cultural, it's like a 1 or 2 string type of it's like a, like a self-made guitar or something, the one that produces the music. Like, what is that called?
I think it's called tumbi, isn't it? Is it tumbi?
The tumbi.
That's probably what you wear under your kameez, Lakhi Singh.
Actually, that I think I just realized yesterday that both myself and Ninda, we both can play the tabla, but I think I'm more like a beginner. But I did show him some of my skills on the back of two bins.
Yes.
Which did make him laugh, I think. But I think I think you should actually get Ninda on to play some tabla for us, actually, for at least a couple of minutes on the show.
Do that as something. Are you actually still a live performer, Ninda Singh, of tabla? Do you still play the?
Yeah. Only a couple of years ago. Well, when I was a couple of years, just pre-COVID, we had a big show because I still play with the Janak, and we had a big show in the jungle in Malaysia, and it was called.
Okay, in the jungle in Malaysia. That's probably going to attract lots of wild animals. So did you actually play the tabla there then, you're saying?
Yeah, it was good. We had about, I think, 30,000-40,000 people in the crowd. It was really
excellent.
good.
Do you, okay, so when you, okay, that's another look. There's another topic there to open up, Ninda. When you have such a huge gathering and you have all the noise and the essence of crowds, how does it feel when you have to go back to the hotel room or go back to your lonely solely? Is it not a bit of a paradox? Is it not a bit antidepressant?
Well, interesting. So some of the people we've played with, Sir Tom Jones, we've played on
Yes.
stage with him, Prodigy, Fatboy Slim. So we've been fortunate.
$20 bill.
Yeah, we've been.
Give it a shout out.
Yeah, we were fortunate to have had some great shows. The advantage, I think, of playing live in a band is it's a totally different experience to then your full time, if that makes sense. But of course, don't forget the markets I operate in, which is entertainment, events. It's all around creativity and thinking outside the box anyway. And I think one of the reasons my events have done quite well is that I had an understanding of how entertainment and events work because of playing on stage all around the world. Understood lighting, understood sound, understood video, understood marketing, because we had to brand our artists. And of course, in studios, you take risks, you do a track, and then the track doesn't quite work. You throw it in the bin and start again. So risk-taking, creativity, out of the box thinking is second nature, actually, to most musicians. They do it all the time. And I think if you approach business in that way, with an agile mind, think about everything, accept everything, take all the risks, with some calculation, then you tend to be a lot more fast-moving than thinking in what I call a black and white syndrome.
Okay, so was it actually, who was it who sang the soundtrack? Munda to Bach. Is it yours?
No. It's a guy called Lab Jinjua from Punjab. Unfortunately, he's passed away.
Okay, right. So he was the actual original voice on that track.
Yeah.
Excellent. And he was part of the Achanak group, was he, or was he?
No, he was just a singer in India, but he penned the vocals down.
Okay.
Different
product. I think it was more of a mix, wasn't it, Linda? It's like a mix of 2-3 different tracks mixed together.
Yeah, it was. The sample of. Do you remember the car, the Knight Rider?
Yeah.
We took a sample.
Right. Yes. Do you think actually Lakhi has a future in trying to create music from his vocals?
Listen, everybody's got an opportunity to do whatever they wish.
Yes.
Actually, I don't know when Linda knows this, but I actually can't sing because I'm probably tone deaf.
Because you're Lakhi Singh.
I can actually sing in Italian. And I've learned a few Punjabi songs as well. So can I do a quick audition later as well, Linda, for you?
Yes.
Maybe I can come on. I can sing in Italian. I mean, is it worth doing? Maybe not in public because might be a bit embarrassing.
Outside the railway station, possibly, Lakhi Singh. That's probably where it works. So in the last few seconds,
sing, but I know all the
words.
Minutes. Does that count for anything?
No, this is not. It looks like Lakhi Singh is forcing in like an X Factor audition. You're not getting a chance in Lakhi Singh. You're the property fixer, and we're in the last minute, so we're going to have to say.
West Punjab. Remember the West Punjab video?
Yes, West Punjab. Well, we have Bob Singh who gives you a shout as well. So, Ninda, it's really been exciting trying to get into the world of entertainment. I actually feel like I'm a half producer now.
Oh, nice.
Now I'm going to try and break the chart industry, trying to bring in Lakhi Singh as a beatboxer in Punjabi. It's not going to work, but it's different. I'll be knocking on, not doors, I'll be knocking on, yeah, there you are. Yeah, I'll be busting doors down. But the problem is, I don't think you've got a future, Lakhi. So I think
I can do that song, that sort of happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Have you heard that one? I can do that really well.
I think Lakhi Singh is now on a high now. So I'm going to say for the last 30 seconds, Ninder Singh, thank you so much for your time. Hope to see you soon again. We're going to be looking out for that video, obviously the interview. Lakhi Singh, thank you so much to Lakhi Singh, the property fixer. As usual, gone a bit crazy this morning, trying to be a beat bopper in Punjabi, which doesn't work. Thank you so much, guys. See you next week. 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. every morning drive time. Don't forget to look out for Lakhi Singh on Saturday and Sunday, who's doing his drive time with the famous Mr. Adnan Pasha, who's dealing with the LPA properties. Thank you so much, guys.